Hi everyone, today I wanted to talk to you about something that I think is incredibly important and valuable. I want to talk about why meta ads are so powerful. When I tell you that getting meta ads working effectively for my business has been completely game changing, I'm not being dramatic. It's changed the health of my business. It's changed the potential of my business for the future. It's changed the way that I'm thinking about the direction that I want to take my business in. It really has made a huge difference. And when I learn something that's important or interesting, I will always share it with you guys. I'm really passionate about not having a just follow these easy steps and you'll be a millionaire, because I think there's quite enough of that out there, and nothing will ever work for every single person and every single business, every single book. We are all different. We all have different skill sets. However, this video is probably the closest I will ever come to doing that, because I am telling you that if you have tried meta ads, Facebook ads in the past, and you have not had very much success with it, or if you haven't tried it, please do look into it, do some research, find out how it works, see if you maybe need some support with getting your ads working, and it really could make a difference. It's worth looking at. Don't watch this video and go, I'm going to put £1,000 ad spend on this. Don't do that. Work within your means, your understanding, do some experimentation, find out about things. But believe me that this is worth learning about. It's worth finding out how to get it working. And this could make a really big difference. I speak to authors all of the time who struggle to sell their books. And this, for me, is an answer to the question of how to sell your books. So in this video, I'm going to talk about my history with meta ads very briefly. And then I'm going to talk about what it is about meta ads that makes such a difference. I will be making a future video where I'll give you some more specific tips and tricks. And once I've made that, I'll come back and link that below. And I've also done a previous video where I interviewed Leslie Sainty, who's a really amazing person that works with authors on getting their meta ads working. She is an expert. I am not. I'm just telling you things from experience. So do go and check out the work that she does and the tips that she shares. There's all kinds of stuff. I will absolutely link her below, but she is a wonderful person to take a look at if you are interested in finding out more. Okay, so my history with meta ads and kind of how selling worked for my business in the past. So I have been working as an author for about 6 or 7 years. And in that time, I can see in my ad account, my spend has been about £200. So essentially, if I had a new book out, or when I did my Kickstarter, or when I was trying to push my author visits, I would put an ad spend behind it and try to get it to work. And I have never found that has translated into sales. If I had any kind of benefit from that spend, it was in a couple of new followers, which I'm always grateful for people who follow me on social media. But if I'm putting an ad spend behind, let's say, a book launch, what I'm hoping for is people buying my book. And of course, those new social media followers might do, or they might buy a book in the future, but it's not that kind of immediate impact that I'm looking at from that spend that I've put in. And so I kind of came to the conclusion that maybe perhaps my platforms weren't big enough. Perhaps my books were too niche, because they are quite niche. Perhaps it was something about me or my business, or goodness knows. Because for example, on some author Facebook groups, you see people saying, well, I've just got my first million gross. And of course, they've had a huge ad spend to get that. But you're looking at that and looking at the number of sales and thinking, but why you? What's different about you and your book and your business? And trying to analyze what that is. And I'd come to the conclusion that paid ads were just not the one for me. So the way that I was approaching sales personally for my business, and the way I was capitalizing on going forward, was that I was looking at doing things in person. So I would go to craft fairs, literary events, local things. I'm still doing those things, don't get me wrong, but I would go to those kind of events and sell books, and particularly school visits. And I've made videos about both of those things. I will link all of that below. But going to a school visit, being paid for the day, and selling books. And the thing about all of that is that, it works, but it has a limited appeal sometimes. For example, you might go to, let's say, a craft fair, and I have done plenty where I have stood there without selling any books or selling very few books. You've always got to guess about whether your customers will be there, and even silly things like, oh, is the weather off, or is there another event up the road, or trying to think about what's the footfall, who are you up against, how does your stall look, all of these things. Of course, there's always considerations in terms of attracting a sale, but both school visits and in-person events require you to be there. So it's dependent on your time, it's dependent on the energy. I mean, both of those things require me to pack a load of stuff into my car. Books are not light. Carry a load of stuff into a place. Work for a day. Take all the things home. Cash up. Sort out the money. Do all the things. It's a lot of work, which is wonderful, and it's enjoyable work, and as long as I am making some money from doing it, then brilliant. But it has a limited reach. I can only travel so far. I only have so much time. I can't do craft fairs every weekend. I've got 3 children, and there are a limited amount of schools around, and of course there's competition, So although that was the direction I was taking my business in, because that's where I was seeing success in terms of sales, you're looking at a lot of work and a limited, in terms of sort of your numbers, like your reach, there's a limitation there. But nonetheless, that was my plan, and that's how I was moving forward, and that's what I was capitalising on. And I am still putting attention into those things, don't get me wrong, but I now have a new branch that I wasn't there before, and I think it's going to be quite a big, hefty branch that I need to give some attention to. So a few months ago, Kirsten McNeil, who I've mentioned before, I will link her below. She's a fellow children's author. She is on a WhatsApp group with me and some other authors, and she had started working with Leslie Sainty, who I talked about, that I interviewed, and she started saying, my ads are working, and I'm selling all these books. She'd share on there, oh look, little stack of packages going off, or oh my goodness, I sold X amount of books last month, or my profit from last month was this. And do check out her social media, by the way, because she shares all these things on TikTok and on YouTube. And I'm thinking, well, but why Kirsten then? What is it about her? Again, I'm kind of trying to compare our books, our businesses, and thinking, I don't understand why she's getting so much return, and if I do an ad, I don't understand. And maybe it's that her books have a broader appeal, maybe it's the illustration style, you go down these rabbit holes. Anyway, I downloaded Leslie Sainty's DIY Facebook ads, I think it's called. I'll link that as well. I downloaded that and I read it, and then I did a whole load of research online, watched a load of YouTube videos, kind of took in a load of information and went, oh. And then I went into my ad account and I fixed it. I will talk about this in an upcoming video. I changed a load of settings. I did a whole load of things on the back end of my website. And all of a sudden, one of my ads started to perform. It wasn't the first one that I set up. I'd done a couple where everything wasn't quite working. And then suddenly everything started to work together and my ad started performing. And I can remember lying in bed, talking to my husband one night and saying, I can't believe it. I'd been making sales for a couple of days. And I said, this changes everything. I'm making a profit from my sales every day. That's not something that I've experienced before. And I remember him just being like, yeah, that's it. That's amazing that's working, because you're right. That's going to have a huge impact. And it's been really lovely to have a side of my business that I feel like took a lot of research, little bit of bravery, little bit of audacity, and I'm getting a return from it, and it feels really, really good. And it's nice that he's like, yeah, you know, it's a great feeling. So I want to share with you more specifically what it is what that difference is, and why it is that Facebook ads in particular are so powerful, in my opinion, because there's other kinds of paid ads. So obviously, running a paid ad that gives you return, gives you sales, means that hopefully, if everything's working right in terms of your website works well, and you've priced everything correctly, and you've thought about your shipping and all of this, and you've got some kind of offer or whatever it might be to bring people in, that all of that means that overall you're making a profit when you've included your ad spend. You definitely need to do the maths to make sure it's working, because otherwise you don't want an ad running and you're just losing money. You need to stop it, rethink, go again. So you are making money, and that obviously is a big bonus to Facebook ads. That's part of what makes them so important, is fundamentally the point of using meta ads is to make some money. Excellent. Now, I will say that in particular, when you're using meta ads, your ideal scenario is that you are combining that with direct sales. So for instance, if I was an author who was predominantly using ebooks, and I had my books available on print on demand on Amazon via KDP, I would probably focus a bit more on Amazon ads. I will say, I will explain why I think Facebook ads have the edge for me, but that would be something that would be more valuable. Now, I have in the past managed to get my Amazon ads working okay, but never amazing, and never worth the amount of work that I had to put into keeping them working. And for me, I only have 2 books with ebooks that will make me a profit, and I only have those same 2 books that are available via print on demand. My other books and my bestsellers are all ones that I've had bulk printed, that are in my house in boxes, and that I distribute, I send out. So I am selling those directly from my website. Now, it might be that you're in a similar situation. You have books that you've had printed, they're in your house, you want to sell them. Or alternatively, you might be using print on demand, but you're buying boxes of them and you want to sell those directly via your website. There is, of course, the option as well that you can have some print on demand services will tie up with your website, because it might be that you don't particularly want to, or don't have the time to, package and ship lots and lots of books all the time. So what you might want to do is have a print on demand system. So something like Book Vault sits quite nicely with Shopify. So someone buys on Shopify, the order comes in via Book Vault. It doesn't pass through you at all. So you might want to do that. But the point is, you're selling on your website. So you're not giving a portion of that sale to the platform that you're selling on. You are using your own website. And what that means is that because you're getting a bigger chunk of the money from that book, you can afford that ad. That's the thing for me. I can't afford, let's say, to put an Amazon ad on Seagrass Meadows, which is what I have my Facebook ad on for the time being, because I make pennies if someone buys through Amazon. So I can't spend £5 to get that that 5 pence. It doesn't work. Whereas when I'm selling on my website, because I'm getting a bigger chunk, I can afford to pay for the ad that has the reach, so that I can then make a profit from selling that book. It's the maths works out well if you're using direct sales. But as another aside, what I found is that although I'm selling lots of books via my website, my other sales avenues are also picking up. So all of a sudden, instead of just selling a couple of books on Amazon every month, I'm selling a good few every week, and I've had to send 2 boxes of books off to Amazon in the last couple of months, and that's not normal for me to send that many to them. So it does have like a trickle down effect to your other avenues. So you're using it as the main place that your ad is sending to. Of course, what I should say is that your meta ad has to go to your website, because you have to use what's called a meta pixel, and you can't embed the code for that pixel in someone else's site. It needs to be in your website. So you need to have a website with that code embedded that's then feeding back to your ad account. That's how it all works. I will explain that more in another video, because I realised that was a lot of words and it is complicated. But so it needs to be to your own website, and Therefore, you're making the highest amount of profit, but you're able to sort of make the settings and have the control over that. What's not going to be as effective is if you're using meta ads and sending that to, let's say, Amazon. That's not going to work. You want to use Amazon ads for that. So I hope that makes sense as a little aside. But as I was saying, when you've got your meta ads selling books on your platform and you're making a profit, more money is a big benefit. So that is thing number one that makes it powerful. And as I say, you don't have to be anywhere. Okay, I have to spend a little bit of time every day packaging up some books and I have to nip to the post office. I could get my books picked up by Royal Mail. I don't. I go to the post office because I like to support them. But yeah, it's not that it doesn't take any of my time, but if I'm selling, let's say, 10 books and all I've had to do is spend a bit of time packaging them and go to the post office, compared to spending an entire day at a craft fair, I think it's preferable. And especially since I can just have an ad running all of the time, running overnight. I wake up to sales. I can't sell books overnight. So it's fantastic when in conjunction with having my books in bookshops, going to events, doing school visits, all of those things working together to access lots of different types of customers. And my Facebook ads are enabling me to reach people all across the country that I can't reach in any other way unless I manage to get my book stocked in bookshops across the country, which as an indie author is highly unlikely. So we sell books, we make money, big positive. But second off is that we also gain followers. Now, earlier on I said, the only real benefit to having an ad is getting more followers and it's not really what I'm looking for. And now I'm saying you get followers and I'm being all positive about it. That's because the followers who are coming to my social media are people who have probably bought a book, definitely considered it because they've interacted with that ad, and they've started following me on my social media. And so they are people who are interested in my product. They're potential future customers. If they did buy a book, maybe they'll buy another one for a friend. Maybe they'll buy my next release. Maybe they'll share my post because they really liked my book. Maybe when I say, please review my book, they will. Maybe, they're going to start interacting more. They're going to be commenting more. And the more engaged they are in my social media, the more the algorithm feeds my social media out to other people. All of a sudden, I have customers on my social media. And that's where the difference is, because my social media, I'm fully aware, is made up of my friends and family and local businesses, people I know, other authors, and I would say much less customers. Now, of course, those previous categories, the local people and the authors, could be my customers. Authors, for example, book lovers. So they are people who are likely to buy books. But these new people, they're people who really might buy my books. And that makes them very exciting as followers. And so increasing that chunk of my social media while still being incredibly grateful for any of my followers, it means that any post has the potential of more sales than it did before, or more interactions than it did before. Any future book, I've got far more customers there. I've got far more people likely to sign up to my newsletter and then be even more into that ecosystem and therefore likely to share things, buy things, interact in some way. It means a far more engaged and interested audience than an audience that could have been built through, as I say, people follow for follow, whatever it might be, So I'm very grateful to the followers that are coming from these ads as like a bonus from the sales. I've made a profit and I've got followers. That's amazing. Whereas before it was followers and it was costing me money. So that's a different scenario. And this is the thing that I think that Facebook has over other potential types of ads, is bringing people into your social media, which, let's say with Amazon ads, maybe somebody would follow your Amazon profile, but I don't think that's as powerful as somebody following you on social media and potentially becoming a future super fan. I think that has a great deal of value. So for me, that adds and that extra element that for me gives it the edge over, let's say, Amazon ads. So why has this changed my business then? Well, for me, as I said, I can now sell books. I'm selling books right now. Have I made a sale while I'm making this video? I have not. But I can go about my life, and I have books being sold all over the country and accessing customers that I might never meet otherwise. That is amazing. And here's the thing, as I gain in confidence, as I can afford to do so, I can turn up my ad spend and see whether, well, what if I double it? Do I get double the sales? Am I still making a profit? Am I making more of a profit? Amazing. What about if I turn it up a bit more? What about if I try a different ad? And I can try different things. Obviously, if something doesn't work, you stop it. And I try something new and hopefully get more of a return and more of a return and so on. And so over time, sure, I might get to a position where I can't, sign every book with personal messages like I do right now. Maybe, I can't have quite the artisanal wrap it in tissue paper and put a nice sticker on it kind of touch. Maybe if I'm selling a higher quantity, might even have to pay my children to package books. But the point is that I have a real tangible way of increasing my sales that does not involve me having to be in more places for more of the time, which I have a finite amount of. I still want to do that, but I don't feel like I've got to kind of absolutely exhaust myself doing as much as I physically can. I can just do what I'd like to do. And then, and what I think has the most value and is going to be the most useful for my energy and other people's enjoyment of whatever it is that I'm doing, rather than trying to do the throw enough spaghetti at the wall and hope something sticks. With this, it's like, well, no, I'm making book sales all the time. So it's not dependent on me going to the thing. That's the only way I can sell books, because my organic sales from social media is hardly anything. It also justifies me having a website, because my website fees are pretty high, and unless I'm selling books on it, what's the point? So it justifies my website, which is fun. But it means that I am selling books, and I do think there are two facets to this business, and I talked about this with Leslie actually. There's the one side that's the creation. There's the author who wrote the book and wants that creative output, and there it is in print. Excellent. And that's probably why there are lots of people who like being traditional authors, because that's your focus point there. But as an indie, we have to do the business stuff as well, and the business is selling the book. And so many people go, right, I'm going to write the book, I'm going to publish the book, and they forget that bit afterwards. And personally, I feel like I hadn't forgotten it, but it wasn't working. And I think that's common too. So that is why I want to share this. Look into meta ads, because if you've gone through this huge process, and I've got so much content on this YouTube channel on how to publish a book. I have far less about marketing because I don't feel I'm any kind of expert in it. I do have some stuff. I have a playlist that I've put together of marketing bits. But you've gone to all of this effort to do this thing, money and time and learning and emotion. And then you get to the final stage and either you struggle or you don't do it. And then all of that, it's not that it was in vain, because for lots of people just having the book published is enough. But it's not a business unless you're making a profit from it. That's where you get the difference between hobbyist, did it because I loved it, and business person. And personally, I want this to be a business. I want to be selling books potentially for the rest of my life. I don't know, I might change my mind, who can say? But right now, that's how I feel. This is what I want to do. And the only way that I can justify doing that is if it makes some money, because I have to pay bills. So if you want to have a real business, then you need to find a way of selling books that works. And it might be in person, and it might be paid ads, and it might be stuff on social media. It might be consulting and all sorts of different things. So here's another thing to say before I finish, because I appreciate that I have talked about lots of different things here. But at one point, I was really focusing on services. So I was looking at consultancy, author visits. So obviously that's kind of a consultancy, like being paid for the day, not worrying about the sales. I'm being paid for the day. speaking engagements. I did some social media, I still do actually, some social media freelance work, thinking about things like, there are lots of authors who work as, let's say, editors or writing coaches, or thinking about, could I run a writing group? All of these things, selling my expertise, knowledge, time, whatever it might be, and focusing on that. But then you look at it and go, but the crux of the business is the books. It's the books I wrote and that I'm selling. That's what I do. I write things. So if I write things but they don't sell, but then what I'm selling is kind of me, that's different. That's a different thing. That's me as a consultant. That's not me as an author. So that, I think, as well, for me, in terms of, I am selling so many more books than I was, and it's enabling me to have more of a focus within my business on selling, on book sales, and that increases my confidence, that it feels like I'm doing what I have set out to do. And therefore my business works. I haven't written a book that hasn't sold and then I'm trying to market myself as some kind of expert, which, by the way, is not what I've done. My books have always sold. I just want to sell more. Right? But hopefully you see what I mean. When it comes down to it, selling more books is what we want to do, right? I don't think I could speak to any author who says, actually, I'd like to sell less books, actually. So if you want to sell more books, and if what I've said strikes a chord with you, please do have a read. Please follow Leslie. I will link her below. Read up about things, find out more. As I say, I will make another video that's a bit more specific. In this video, I just really want to enthuse you. I just want to say, look, this is my experience, and it really has made a difference. And so I hand it over to you. I hope that this is helpful, and if you have any questions, please do ask them in the comments. Please hit like if this was useful, and don't forget to subscribe if you haven't already. I do intend to have lots more videos on marketing, not just Meta. So thanks for watching. I'll see you all soon. Take care.